The morning sun cast long shadows across the Naval Special Warfare Training Center as Lieutenant Sarah Chun adjusted the straps on her combat vest. The weight felt familiar now, after months of preparation, but the eyes watching her every move still carried doubt. She had fought for this moment longer than anyone knew, and today would either validate years of dedication or confirm the whispered predictions that she would wash out like so many others. The obstacle course stretched before her like a metallic serpent, each station designed to break bodies and spirits with methodical precision. Rope climbs that left hands bloody and raw. Wall traversals that demanded perfect technique under exhaustion. Mud pits that swallowed the weak-willed whole. This was not just any training course. This was the legendary Navy SEAL Combat Assessment, a benchmark that had stood unchanged for 10 years, measuring the absolute limits of human endurance and tactical skill. Chief Petty Officer Marcus Rodriguez watched from the observation deck, his weathered face betraying nothing as he studied the latest candidate. 27 years in the Navy had taught him to read people quickly, and what he saw in Chun both impressed and concerned him. She moved with the fluid confidence of someone who had spent countless hours perfecting every motion. But the skeptical murmurs from his fellow instructors reminded him of the politics surrounding her presence here. "She's got the scores on paper," muttered Senior Chief Williams, clipboard in hand. "But paper doesn't bleed, doesn't break bones, doesn't quit when your lungs are screaming for air." Rodriguez nodded slowly. Williams was right to be cautious. The combat assessment had broken seasoned Marines, Army Rangers, and even experienced SEALs who thought they knew what elite training meant. The course was deliberately designed to exceed normal human limitations, pushing candidates into that gray zone where technique mattered more than strength, where mental toughness separated the extraordinary from the merely excellent. Chun had arrived at the training center 6 months ago with a file that read like something from a recruitment poster. MIT Mechanical Engineering degree with summa cum laude honors. Expert marksman ratings across multiple weapon systems. Combat diving certification. Advanced tactical medicine qualifications. Language fluency in Mandarin, Arabic, and Russian. Her academic achievements were undeniable, her technical skills impressive, but the SEAL community had seen brilliant minds crumble when faced with the unforgiving reality of special operations warfare. The whispers had started immediately. Some questioned whether someone who looked like she belonged in a laboratory could handle the brutal physicality of SEAL operations. Others wondered if her presence was just another politically motivated experiment, destined to fail, but providing good publicity until reality set in. A few, mostly the older instructors who had seen decades of candidates come and go, simply waited and watched, knowing that the training itself would reveal the truth. What none of them knew was the story that had brought Chun to this moment. Growing up in San Francisco's Chinatown, she had watched her father work 16-hour days in a restaurant kitchen, saving every dollar to ensure his daughter could attend the best schools. Her mother, a former nurse in Taiwan, had instilled in her a fierce work ethic and an understanding that excellence was not negotiable. When classmates were attending parties, Chun was in the library. When others complained about difficult coursework, she sought additional challenges. The path to MIT had been paved with perfect grades and countless hours of sacrifice, but college had shown her something unexpected. During her junior year, a guest lecturer from the Naval Research Laboratory had presented advances in underwater robotics, and Chun had found herself fascinated not just by the technology, but by the operational challenges faced by the teams who deployed and maintained these systems in hostile environments. That presentation had led to internships, which led to conversations with active duty personnel, which gradually revealed a world where her technical expertise could serve a higher purpose. The Navy offered intellectual challenges that civilian engineering could not match, but it was the human element that truly captured her imagination. The idea of being part of a team where individual excellence contributed to collective success, where her skills could protect and enable others, resonated with values her parents had taught her from childhood. The decision to pursue special operations had not been impulsive. Chen had spent 2 years researching, training, and preparing before even submitting her application. She had worked with former SEALs to understand the physical demands, consulted with sports psychologists to develop mental resilience strategies, and studied every available resource about special operations culture and expectations. Her preparation had been methodical and comprehensive, but standing here now, watching the other candidates stretch and check their equipment, Chen knew that all the preparation in the world could not fully simulate what lay ahead. The combat assessment was legendary precisely because it could not be gamed or shortcut. It demanded everything a person had to give, and then demanded more. The first group of candidates began their runs, and Chen studied their movements with an engineer's analytical mind. She observed how fatigue affected technique, noted which approaches to obstacles proved most efficient, cataloged the points where most people began to struggle. This was not just curiosity. In a few hours, she would need every advantage she could gain through observation and analysis. Senior Chief Williams called her name, and Chen stepped forward to receive her briefing. The rules were simple in concept, brutal in execution. Complete the entire course in under the benchmark time while maintaining strict technical standards at each station. Any safety violation meant immediate disqualification. Any failure to meet the minimum standard at any station meant starting over from the beginning. The clock would not stop for anything short of a medical emergency. You understand what you're attempting here? Williams asked, his tone neutral, but his eyes searching. This isn't a graduation requirement you can retake next semester. This is the standard that operational teams depend on. If you earn this qualification, people will trust you with their lives based on what happens here today. Chen met his gaze steadily. Understand, Senior Chief. I'm ready. Williams nodded and handed her the timing device. We'll see. You've got one shot at this, Lieutenant. Make it count. As Chen moved toward the starting line, she could feel the weight of attention from every corner of the training facility. Word had spread that someone was attempting the full combat assessment today, and a crowd had gathered. Some faces showed curiosity, others skepticism, and a few displayed the kind of neutral professionalism that meant they would judge purely on performance. The starting position placed her at the base of a 40-foot rope climb, the first of 8 stations that would test every aspect of her physical and mental preparation. Above her, the rope disappeared into a framework of steel beams and pulleys designed to simulate the kind of improvised climbing often required in real operations. There were no shortcuts here, no technique that could substitute for raw endurance and grip strength. Rodriguez's voice carried across the facility as he began the official briefing. Ladies and gentlemen, you are about to witness an attempt at the Navy SEAL Combat Assessment. This benchmark has stood for 10 years, representing the minimum standard for advanced special operations training. The current record time is held by Chief Petty Officer Thompson, who completed the course in 28 minutes and 15 seconds during his assessment 3 years ago. A murmur rippled through the crowd. Thompson's record was legendary, set by a man who had gone on to lead some of the Navy's most challenging missions. Few believed it would ever be broken, and those who attempted the assessment typically focused on simply meeting the minimum passing standard rather than chasing records. The candidate will complete 8 stations in sequence, Rodriguez continued. Rope climb with combat load, obstacle traverse under time pressure, combat marksmanship with multiple weapon systems, tactical movement through urban terrain, combat swimming with equipment recovery, medical scenario under stress, communications exercise under fire simulation, and finally, a tactical leadership scenario requiring real-time decision-making under extreme physical and mental fatigue. Chen listened to the briefing while running through her mental preparation routine. She visualized each station, recalled the specific techniques she had practiced, and regulated her breathing to maintain optimal oxygen levels. Around her, the facility had grown quiet except for Rodriguez's voice and the distant sound of other training exercises. Each station has specific performance standards that must be met, Rodriguez explained. Failure to meet any standard requires the candidate to restart the entire assessment from the beginning. Medical personnel are standing by, but stopping for any reason other than a declared emergency constitutes automatic disqualification. The weight of expectation settled around Chun like a physical presence. She could feel it in the silence, in the intensity of the watching eyes, in the careful neutrality of the instructor's expressions. This was more than just a training exercise. This was a test of whether excellence could transcend expectations, whether capability mattered more than assumptions. Williams approached with the official timer, a device that would track not just her overall time, but her performance at each individual station. "Last chance to walk away," he said quietly, his voice carrying no judgment. "No one will think less of you for recognizing this might not be the right path." Chun shook her head. "With respect, Senior Chief, this is exactly where I need to be." Williams studied her for a moment longer, then stepped back and raised his hand. "Assessment begins in 10 seconds, he called out. "Candidate will commence on my mark." The seconds stretched like hours as Chun settled into her starting position. Her hands found their grip on the rope, her feet positioned for maximum leverage. Every muscle in her body coiled with potential energy, ready to explode into motion the moment Williams gave the signal. Around her, the facility had become completely silent except for the sound of her own controlled breathing. This was the moment that would define not just her career, but her entire understanding of what she was capable of achieving. Years of preparation, months of training, and a lifetime of pushing beyond expectations had led to this single point in time. "Mark!" Chen's body responded before her conscious mind could process the command. Her hands pulled, her legs drove upward, and the rope began to slide past her as she climbed with mechanical precision. Below her, the crowd watched in silence as she attacked the first obstacle with a combination of technique and determination that immediately set her apart from the typical candidate. The rope climb was designed to eliminate candidates who relied purely on upper body strength. Smart climbers used their legs and core to maintain efficiency, saving arm strength for the challenges ahead. Chun had studied video of hundreds of rope climbs, analyzing the subtle differences between those who succeeded and those who failed. Her technique was flawless, each movement contributing to